What's going on, guys? On this episode of JR's Cars, I need to do an oil change on the edge, and while I'm in there, I might as well change the PTU fluid. So kick back, relax, and stay tuned. So, like I said, it's time to get some maintenance done. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to do the oil change in the car. I figured I was going to do the PTU fluid change as well, but I'm going to have to save that for another trip because the weather is kind of starting to turn a little bit here, and I don't think I'm going to have enough time to get that done. So stay tuned because I'm going to do another video on that one. Trust me, that is most definitely coming because I'm interested in seeing what kind of fluid is going to come out of that PTU. So, but for today, just going to change the oil, and we'll just go over all the other fluids and make sure everything else looks okay, and then we'll be on the road again. So what you want to do, of course, is get your oil and get a good quality oil filter. I know I've said it in the past, but I like using the same manufacturer oil filter as a vehicle. So this is a Ford, anything Ford Motor Company I would use a Motorcraft filter for. My Pontiac Torrent, I use a AC Delco filter. I've had Dodges in the past, Dodges and Chryslers. I've used Mopar filters for them. It just makes for a better filter. They're built a little bit better than these cheap Fram garbage qualities, or even if you go to these oil change places, you get these bottom bargain brand filters that are dirt cheap and they're garbage. You could look it up anywhere. I know Bob, the oil guy, is a really good resource for looking at things like that. He's done studies before, breaking open filters and taking a look at what they look like. And the going consensus is filter media is one thing, but the anti-drain back valve that's in them is also another thing. What I've seen in the past, of course, is use some of the cheaper filters or garbage, like a Fram or something like that, the low-end Frams. What ends up happening, of course, is after the car sits overnight for a little bit, you'll find yourself getting a little bit of a ticking noise for the first couple seconds on a startup. And it's usually because the oil doesn't stay in the filter, so it dries out overnight, and then the oil drains back down into the oil pan. So it's technically a dry start. You don't have enough oil flow first thing in the morning. Getting a good filter with a good anti-drain back valve in there resolves that problem. Okay, so first thing I like to do, of course, is you want to run the engine for just a couple minutes, just enough to warm up the oil that's in it, just so it flows out a little bit better. Same thing with pulling your dipstick. I'll pull the dipstick, and this will act as a vent, and it'll allow the oil to flow out a little bit better. After running the engine, you want to make sure that you let it sit for a couple minutes, obviously, like maybe 5-10 minutes or so, just so all the oil that's up in the heads, anything that's in the top end of the engine, goes back down into the oil pan, so that way it'll drain out nice and easy. Okay, so what I also like to do is I also like to open the fill tube up, take a look at the bottom of the fill cap here. Right, so obviously this looks okay. There's nothing on there. I'd be really concerned if I saw like a milky substance in there. That could be water intrusion. It could be coolant mixing in with your oil. It could be lower intake manifold gasket. It could be a head gasket. It could be a whole plethora of different problems. But this one looks really good. Put that off to the side. And being that we're up in here, and this is the first time I'm looking at this, let's take a look inside the head real quick. So it actually looks very, very clean from what I can see. So I'm pleasantly surprised with, well, not really surprised, but I'm very happy with the way that looks. Let's see if we can get a quick look at that timing chain in there. I can't really see it. You're not going to be able to. Oh, there we are. Actually, you can kind of see it in the background there. There's the timing chain. So that looks pretty good. Everything looks pretty good in that engine. 154,000 miles on it now, I believe, or 153,000 miles on it. So we're looking pretty good. Now it's time to go to the bottom end. All right, so I've already taken the liberty of loosening up the drain plug here. I was actually very pleased to see that it wasn't torqued on like hell, because a lot of places they just torque the crap out of these bolts, and it's going to eventually strip out the bolts. It's going to strip the thread, and then it's going to cost you more to fix it. So I see that a lot with these oil change places. They do that too. So there we go. Let that bad boy drain, and then we'll come back. Okay, so while that's draining out, take the liberty of cleaning up your drain plug. Take a look. Some of these are magnetic, so it would be a good thing to take a look and see if you see any metal chunks on the tip of the plug here. If you're new to my channel, I would definitely suggest you take a look at the videos that I have on my Hyundai Sonata. Metal chunks galore. So you could check out the videos up top. I'll link those down below too, and hopefully take a look at those and see see what your thoughts are about Hyundai at this point. Mine's very sour. But to get back to this, you can see this this rubber gasket that's in there too. You also want to inspect that. All right, you want to take a look and see if there's any cracks, any divots, anything that would make it leak. But this one here looks really good, so it's gonna. I already cleaned it up, and it's gonna go back in. But while that's still draining out, we're gonna take a look at a couple other, regular maintenance items that you should look at when you're doing your own oil change. This will save you, like I said, it'll save you time if you know how to do your own oil. You don't mind getting your hands a little dirty. I mean, obviously, I'm wearing gloves. You don't need to get your hands dirty. But this is all the stuff that an oil change place will basically end up doing for you. They're going to inspect things, and they're going to charge you accordingly. All right, so their services usually are 5 quarts of oil and a filter. You don't know the name brand. Some of them are just garbage junk filters, anything to just pop it in and pop it out and get the next car in. Like I said, I like using the manufacturer branded oil filters. All right, so being that you're in here, you're waiting for the oil, check all your fluids. All right, so obviously you can see here, you wash your fluid. It's a little bit low. I have to add a little bit more in there. It's not a big deal. So next stop is going to be your coolant. Now you want to make sure that if you ran this engine, you want to make sure that this is cool before you go and touch it. I ran the engine for a little bit, but this is already cooled off. So you can open this up and take a look inside, right? Again, take a look at the cap, see if everything looks okay. Everything seems to be okay. Take a look inside. Take a look and see what your fluid looks like. Right, this one I can see is a nice green in color. I mean, it's a little hard to see on the camera because you see the reflection of the light there, but I can see that the fluid is good. It is pretty much right here, so it's right between the cold and the hot start, the hot level, so we are good to go there. Make sure you put that cap back on there and you give it a good twist until you hear the click. You want to take a look at your power steering fluid. All right, power steering fluid looks to be in good shape. The fluid really doesn't look that bad. It's a nice bright pink, which it should be in a Ford. It should be using Mercon 5 in there. So that is really nice, and I'm very happy to see that. Again, this is all stuff that I didn't really look too far into when I bought the car, but everything looks to be in order. That's good. And then if you want, you can take a look in here. We'll just move the oil out of the way. Take a look at your brake fluid. right? Brake fluid. Looks good. It's golden color. It's not too bad. Looks like it's still serviceable. At one time, I probably will flush this out, but right now it looks like it's still in pretty good condition. All right. And then you want to take a look at your air filter. So pop those clips off. And then this here will pop loose. Take a look at it here. Perfect. That's perfect, right? There's no debris in there. It's not fully discolored, right? So this is serviceable still. So this will still go back in the car. And honestly, the dealership that I bought this car from, I've bought other cars before. The Pontiac Torrent was one of them, and they're really good with taking care of the cars and making sure that they're good for the customers before they leave the lot. Now that air box is back on there, you want to make sure that you put these clips back on, because I can't tell you how many times I've actually done that and forgotten to either put the clips on there, or I've removed this band clamp and I've forgotten to tighten it down, and this is loose, and we're getting unmetered air sucked in, and it happens. People make mistakes. That's just what it is. But just make sure that you put those back on there, because you don't want any debris or anything like that getting sucked past the filter and going through your mass airflow sensor into the engine, because that's going to cause a whole different realm of problems. But another thing that you should really look into, we're at the beginning of October right now, and we're getting into the season where it's going to get colder outside, and we're only going to get colder from here. So your battery is the life of your car, okay? How many times have you gone out to your car, you went to go turn that key, and all you hear is click, click, or brrrr, and nothing, right? So you want to look at this now, because you really don't want to be stranded when it comes down to it. You're at work and you go outside, you go turn that key and nothing happens. You're going to be pretty pissed off. So take a look at your battery. If you're wondering on how to test it, just hook a multimeter up to it. See what the resting voltage is. Do it overnight. Do it first thing in the morning when the car hasn't been driven for a day or two. See what the resting voltage is. If you're under 12 volts, that battery needs to be replaced. You can also do a load test, which I actually have an old video of mine that I did a load test, and I'll show you that one right here and show you how bad that battery failed. So you can see on that car, that was actually on my 2001 Mercury Sable wagon. I'd like to build a whole video series about that car. I really did love that car. But the battery failed. That battery was, I believe, only about 2.5, maybe 3 years old. But you could see that when you turn the key, the voltage really dropped. I think it was like under 9 volts. If memory serves me right. I'll look at the video a little bit later. But it was around like 9 volts when you were turning the key. That's not enough to start your car. That battery was dead. It needed to be replaced. And honestly, it's with batteries, you want to make sure that you're getting yourself a decent battery, because you really don't want to be stranded anywhere just because of a battery. All right, so now that we're down to a drip, I'll just come in here and clean this up a little bit. Make sure that mating surface is nice and clean. Then, if it would come over to me really quick, it would be nice. Go ahead and put that drain plug back in. And tighten it back down. All right, now that that's all buttoned up there, what we're gonna wanna do is you're gonna wanna take the oil filter off here. Right, so this, sometimes, again, it's one of those things that these guys, either they're way too loose or they're way too tight. There's like no in between. So I'm hoping this one's actually gonna come loose by hand. And being that my hand is a little greasy, oh, there we go. I want to watch here because you are going to make a mess. All right, and there you go. There's your mess. So get that pan ready because, like I said, you're going to make a mess. So let's go ahead and get this all the way off here. And it's a CarQuest filter, so it's really not a bad filter. I'm, you know, pretty happy again with the dealership and the way that they service their cars before they send them off. There we go. All right. So we'll let that drain out, and then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to look up top there to make sure that that mating surface is nice and clean, and to make sure that the gasket that's on the oil filter didn't stick to the mating surface too, because that's going to cause more leaks. So just make sure that's all clean. Put the new filter on there. Before you put the filter on there though, what I like doing is I like filling up the filter itself, so all the media that's in there gets oil on it, and then you want to oil up that seal that's on it just to make sure that it goes on smooth too. This is going to prevent any dry starts or any kind of tapping or anything like that you would get if the filter itself was dry. All right, so like I said, you just want to make sure that that filter is on there hand tight. Now it's time to fill her back up and seal the deal. After we fill it up, you want to put it down on level ground. You want to make sure that that the fluid level is good, should be in the cross hatches, and then after that, your oil change is done. All right, so one last thing you definitely want to take a look at is the condition of your wiper blades. If you notice that you're starting to see some streaking, you're starting to see some, you know, chattering when it's coming up and down, overall they're not working very well, just replace them. They're really cheap, and honestly, it's a vital part of the car. If you can't see, how can you drive, right? So just replace them. Simple as that. They're cheap. These are Michelins that I picked up. I already did these, but these were Michelins that I picked up from Costco. I think they were like $9 a piece, something like that. They're really cheap. So this concludes the work on the Edge for today. Really happy with what I saw so far, and it's been a pretty good car, so I can't complain at all. So definitely consider subscribing to the channel because, like I said, I'm going to definitely do the PTU oil. I want to get that done because I'm interested in seeing what's going on underneath there, and I want to see what kind of fluid is in it. I also have some front end suspension work to do, suspension and steering work to do on the Torrent. And I'm also going to be doing a Will It Run video on a classic car. So do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. And I want to thank all my new subscribers out there too, because I see you guys, right? So I hope everyone's staying safe out there, and I'll definitely catch you guys in the next video. And of course, just like that, it starts raining.